So we were studying the 19th shloka of the Gita, second chapter, Sankhya Yoga. I cannot write anything because we don't have the markers. So we are actually in the Sankhya Yoga, second chapter, 19th verse. Ya enam vetti hantaram, yaschainam manyate hatam, ubhau tau na vijanitaha, nayam hanti na anyate. So we are in that 19th verse. So, what we have seen is, what Krishna is saying, because Arjuna is grieving for the death of his dear friends, his relatives, his grandfather, people. Krishna is in the second chapter trying to analyze what the root of his grief or suffering is. Right? That's what we saw. And he's saying, he's picked up three threads. He said, that which is always there is not fit for grief. That which is inevitably lost is not fit for grief. So what is your grief for? It's because of your abhimana. That means you like something, and if that which you like doesn't exist anymore, then you get grief. Not because something doesn't exist, or something is the spirit or the body itself is destroyed. The grief is not because of that. The grief is because you like that, and that if it's not there, then you get grief. Right? So he has these three threads, which is basically what the whole Gita is about. Right? He's going to in detail describe what each of these things are. So the second chapter itself is more about the first thread, which is that he's saying Jiva is something that does not go away due to any cause. Right? So to explain that, first of all, he said, he has to show that Jiva exists other than the body, which he showed, because that everything in the body changes, right? But the I feeling is always the same. So if the I is generated from the body, then it has to change, right? Everything in the body changes. It's not the same. So where is that identity I come from? So he's in that Dehino Asmin Yatha Dehe Kaumaram Yauvanam Jara, which is telling that the body changes from this childhood, from youth and old age. It is constantly changing, but the I is not changing, and that's what is Jiva. That proves that Jiva exists. Right? So he proves to Arjuna that Jiva actually exists because there is something which is unchanging at the root of everything that changes, which is the body. Right? So now he has to prove to Arjuna that which is unchanging is never destroyed. So he picks up this thread and he says, just like I am always there and I will always be there in the future, the same with you and all the kings of men, he says. So he's telling Arjuna that the Jiva was always there, the Jiva will always be there, and there will not be a time when the Jiva will not be there. That means Bhishma, Drona and all the friends, all the Pandavas, all the Kauravas, every one of them, they were always there before, maybe in different forms, but in essence they were always there. In the future they will always be there, may not be in the same form, but in different forms, but the essence, the Jiva, will always be there. So he just said that, right? And then he's explaining that. He says, there are four kinds of destructions. Right, just to show, there is a seat here. Oh, footwear, okay. So, he says, they're truly indestructible. There are four kinds of destructions. Nasha, four kinds. When in Sanskrit, when you say something is nasha, destroyed, you mean four things. Either it's destroyed in essence, or in the form, or, I was asking last time, when will you say, oh, this person is destroyed? Oh, that guy is destroyed. When will you say that? When do you say that?
When he loses everything. When he loses all his possessions.
That means when he loses his possessions, means he loses his happiness. Right? So when a person loses happiness, he is said to be destroyed. And the other thing is apurnata, imperfection. We also call that fallibility. Infallible is anasha, fallibility is nashatva, which is apurnatva. Right? So there are four kinds of destruction: destruction in essence, destruction in form, destruction of happiness, and destruction of perfection or fallibility. Fallibility, right? So these are four kinds of destruction, and he's saying there's only one which is indestructible in all these four senses. Right? Avinashi tu tadvidhi yena sarvamidam tatam vinasham avyayasya asya nakaschit kartum arhati. Only that which is omnipresent is truly indestructible. And that which is omnipresent is only Parabrahman, God. Right? So, in these four senses, that which is indestructible is just Paramatma. Right? Indestructible in terms of essence, indestructible in terms of form, indestructible in terms of dukkha. Right? He's always Anandamaya. Right? And then imperfection. Nothing is there in Parabrahman, so he's truly indestructible. But why and how are we indestructible? Are we indestructible in form? No. The body dies, right? The body always changes. We are destructible in form. Are we indestructible in happiness? No. No, dukkha. Dukkha is there, a part of life, right? Are we indestructible? Are we infallible or fallible? Fallible. So, we have three kinds of destructions. Only in one sense we are indestructible. And that is, the essence is never extinguished, right? The jiva is never extinguished. So, we are always existing only in terms of essence. We are indestructible only in terms of essence and nothing else, right? And then where is that derived from? That was the next shloka. Antavanta ime deha nityasyokta sharirinaha anashinaha prameyasya tasmad yudyasva bharata. That is, every body, again, one of the things I asked was, is there a sense, can you have essence without a form? Right? You cannot have essence without a form. That's what we found out last time. Can you have taste without something to taste? Right? You have to have something which has taste. You cannot have just taste and nothing, without anything which it is present in. Right? So you have to have a form which will have its essence. Right? So now the form has to be there for essence to be there. So what is jiva's form? Because this shloka says, Antavanta ime deha, every body of the jiva is destructible. Right? But yet jiva is said to be unextinguished. Is always there in the future, was always there before. So that means the body should always be there. But Krishna is saying Antavanta, that means every body will come to an end. And finally all bodies will come to an end. Therefore there has to be something which is Swarupa Deha, which is the Jiva Swarupa itself is its form as well as essence. Essence and form are the same, in terms of, for Jiva. Right? And I said, the relationship between Parabrahman and Jiva is that of source and reflection. Right? Source and reflection. Bimba, Pratibimba. And what are the two things between source and reflection? What are the two properties of reflection? There are two properties of reflection. No. I'm saying any reflection.
Looks like the source.
Exactly. Right? Similarity. Kinchit sadrishyam. Just some similarity. And then what else?
The source must be there in order to be a reflection.
That is there. Let's say the source is always there because he said, I am Avinashi. There is no destruction for me. So the reflection is always there. What else should be there? What else is the property?
You need a medium.
Media. We said, so that was the question last time. The media or the form is the Jiva Swarupa itself. Otherwise, you cannot say that the mirror is destructible but the reflection is not destructible. Because there has to be some mirror that reflects. And then that was the last time where they said the mirror, which is Jiva Swarupa itself, is also always there. That is the Swarupa, the essence and the form are always there. Right? So that is established. What else? So can we stand in front of a mirror and the reflection moves? Right? Dependence. Right? That is paradina. So, the properties are similarity and then complete dependence. When source moves, reflection moves. When source cries, reflection cries. Right? There is no independent initiative of the reflected object. Right? So now Krishna is saying the relationship between Paramatma and Jiva is like that, because Jiva is kinchit sadrishya. That means he is similar in terms of essence, because Paramatma is infinitely blissful, Jiva is finitely blissful. But bliss is similar to each. Paramatma is Sat, always existing. Jiva is also Sat, similar, right? Paramatma is infinite, Jiva is finite, but Sat, Chit, Ananda are the similar qualities. So there is similarity. And dependence is, the Jiva is completely dependent for his being and becoming on the source, which is Paramatma. So this was what we learned last time in the shloka Antavanta ime dehaha nityasya ukta sharirinaha. Now, when you do this, now in Vyavaharika Jnana means day to day knowledge. When we go about, see, the Vyavaharika Jnana, you can say about 600, 700 years ago, even though I don't believe this, but let's say everybody believed that earth was flat. So what is that? That is Vyavaharika Jnana. That means even though that was not true, still that knowledge was there in Vyavahara. How people interact, how they talk to each other, they assume that the world is flat. Right? Even though it was then proved that it was not flat, nothing changed. Right? So Vyavahara still continued. So even though Krishna says the Jiva is completely independent, completely dependent on Parabrahman for his being and becoming, and is eternal because Paramatma is eternal, even then we have a day-to-day knowledge which is completely opposite to these two. And then this is the shloka that we were learning last time. Ya enam vetti hantaram, yaschainam manyate hatam, ubhau tau na vijanitaha, na ayam hanti na hanyate. This is just a rewording of a shloka from Kathopanishad that Krishna is using. Kathopanishad, hanta ched manyate hantum, hatas ched manyate hatam, ubhau tau na vijanitaha, na ayam hanti na hanyate. What it is saying is this: if there is A who kills a B, and if somebody thinks A is a killer, and if somebody thinks B is killed, he says, Ubau tau na vijanitaha. Both of them, they do not know. Na ayam hanti na hanyate. Neither does A kill, nor B get killed. Neither is A a killer or B killed. So this is what comes from this relationship between Paramatma and Jivatma. And we were talking about how in jurisprudence, this will not work. I cannot say I'm not a killer, God is doing me, doing this killing through me. I don't deserve punishment. It doesn't work. Right? So what it is talking about here is, what is it talking about here? Why is A not a killer?
He's talking about killing the Jeev, isn't he? He's not talking
No,
about...
killing. So, when somebody thinks B is killed, if he thinks that Jiva itself is extinguished, then Krishna is saying, then he doesn't know. If somebody dies and you think that he's completely gone, then you don't know. Because there's something going on beyond what we know, that he will continue. That is one part. And then he says, if A kills somebody, but he says A is not a killer.
Because B is not a killer.
No, B is not killed, but which B are you talking about? The B, the Jiva, or B, the body?
B, the body.
Okay, so you are punished for what? Body. Okay, so still A has killed the body. Okay, then, but Krishna is saying.
So A's jiva has killed his body.
No, he's saying A's jiva itself has not killed the body, he says.
Because jiva is still alive.
Yes, but the body is not alive.
I know.
Like you are punished for the body, not for the jiva.
That child was not killed.
Is it?
No, he's not killed in the sense of the essence. The jiva is still there, but the body dies, right? So you're punished for the reason that the body dies, not that the jiva will exist. Right? Then nobody is a killer. No, of course not. Who
punishes the body, not the...
No, but who has the experience? Jiva has the experience, right? The body will not experience anything. Body is just inert.
It's a conception of sensations.
Yeah. So that means if you are going through punishment, the suffering is to the jiva itself. The jiva will suffer
Through the body.
through the body. Yeah.
Is it to do with the example you gave about the light switch? You think you're turning the light switch on.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you're not. There's an interrelationship.
Expected.
Exactly. So if you go to chapter 18th chapter of the Gita, Krishna says, when somebody does something, there are 5 factors, that are involved, right? And he talks about adhisthana, karana, jiva, all of these factors are there. And I was giving last time the example, a sentence, where I say, I turned the light on, right? For all practical purposes, perfectly good, right? And then the next time I turn the switch on, light doesn't come on. Then can I say I turned the light on? No, because the light is not on. Then I realize I need power and my action for the light to come on. Next time I turn the switch on, light doesn't come on. There is power, I have done the action, but the bulb is bad, right? And then the next time I do, the switch is gone bad, so I cannot turn the light. So if you go into minute details, there is a chain of causes between my intention and the next time, let's say, next time I want to turn the switch on, my muscles don't work. So I have the desire, but I cannot do anything about it, right? So you cannot even think of a simple act of I turn the switch on and realize that there are innumerable chains of causes that has to come together for a small action to happen. But because all of these happen regularly, and we cannot, if we use so much resources to think about all this, we will not be able to accomplish even the simplest task. So what has Ajnana done? Ignored all these innumerable changes and only focuses on one change or a set of changes so that we can be sane. Otherwise we'll go insane, right? So even though there are so many things that come together, adhisthana, karana, karta, all of these come together, who gets the credit? I turned the light on, right? So Krishna is focusing.
Nobody gets the credit. We take the credit.
That's true. We take the credit, right? I did it. And we don't realize that all these innumerable things come together for a small event, like this class happening, so many things, so many people, all of these need to come together. And I cannot claim or you cannot claim that this happened because of me. And that illusion of independence, swatantriya, that is a illusion, right? And this is not Vedanta, this is practicality. Krishna is talking in Gita, there is nothing which is Vedanta in the sense of a dry, that is what do you call that, abstract, dry stuff. It is all everyday stuff, everyday problems, solutions to everyday problems that Krishna is talking about. Right? So when he says a person is not independent, that means because of all these things. But the illusion is, for the convenience, we take the I credit for things that we didn't even do, or which we were very partially, cause of. We take credit for it. Right? Now the question is, No, so ya enam vetti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam. I said independence is not there. But, and we were talking about in the West, there is a talk of empowerment. When do you get empowered? When is a person empowered?
When you get all the powers.
No, but when you think, I was reading that you are the author in your own life story. What is that? Is it dependence or independence? Independence. This is probably in 9th grade. So, 9th grade they are teaching, you are the author of your own story. Which means what? You are empowered to change. Krishna is saying, you are not the author of your own story. Right?
This is true as well, that you write your life story.
See.
What your actions dictate what kind of person you're going to turn around.
Correct. Correct. But Krishna is saying, no, you are not the author of your own story. Do not claim.
The contradiction.
Yeah, contradiction, right? That completely contradicts what they're teaching in the 9th grade and probably from toddler. Right? You can do, which is good. Why are they teaching it?
Get self-confidence.
Empowerment. You can do something. Because what are the two extremes of that? One is empowered means what? I am responsible for my actions. If I am an owner, like people who work in industries, you need to take ownership. They say everything. You need to take ownership. Why? Because if you are the owner, then you are responsible. Otherwise, you are on the line, right? So now, you say, Krishna says you are not the owner, then what is the other extreme of that? What is the opposite of that? If you are not the owner, if you are the owner, you are responsible. If you are not the owner, what? Then what? No, you are not responsible for it. So what will happen if you are not responsible for something? Right? It's not mine, right? It's natural. It's careless. If a car is not mine, why would I take care of it? I will use it, abuse it, and that's it. Right? So these are two options. You own it, so you're responsible for it. You take care of it. If you don't own it, you're not responsible for it. Yeah? You don't take care of it. You're careless or you abuse it. These are the two options. Krishna says, no, that is two-valued logic. There is a third-valued logic. Right? In India, there are so many. If you go to Jaina Dharma has 7 valued logic. Yes, and I was giving the example of Evite. Right? If you only have yes and no in Evite, how will that work? It will not work. Right? You have to have a maybe. Because I want to go, but I don't know. So that's maybe. Right? If you just say you have to give the answer in yes and no, I cannot give the answer in yes and no. Right? So the same way Krishna says, you are not the owner, but you're still responsible. That's the third option. Right? If you are the owner, then you go. If whatever you own goes down, you go down with it. When it goes up, you go up with it. Right? If you don't own, you don't care, but you are losing out on it. But Krishna is saying, you don't own, but yet you are not irresponsible. You are not careless. You still are responsible. You don't own, you are responsible. But this is an example of a war situation. But this is true of any situation. Right? I can say, ya enam dataram manyate, datam manyate, ubhavatav na vijanitaha, nayam hanti nanyate. One who thinks he is a donor, one who thinks he is donated to, both of them do not realize nobody is the donor, nobody is donated to. Is true. One who thinks he is a teacher, one who thinks he is taught, both of them do not understand. Nobody teaches, nobody learns. Right? All of these are true, but not in the sense of two logic, in the sense of three logic. Right? But let's look at the donate and being donated to. Right? What can you donate? Can you say, I will donate Sunil's car? Why can't you say that? You don't own it, right? You got to own something to donate it. And Ishavasya Upanishad first shloka says, first mantra says, Ishavasyam idam sarvam yatkinchit jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bunjitaha magruda kasyasvid dhanam. It says, nobody owns anything. The owner is out there. We are all renters. He says. So, if we are all renters, try to, sell your rented apartment to somebody. You cannot, right? That which you do not own, you cannot donate. So, you are neither the donor, nor you are a receiver. So, but we assume all those things just to make convenience in the world. But Krishna says, you can still have the convenience and not expend resources and be insane, because there is a third path. And that is what Krishna is. Whole of Gita is about the third path. That means we only think of two options, owner or irresponsible. Krishna says, no, there is a third option. You are not the owner, that is the truth. But do not be responsible, do not be irresponsible because you are not the owner. There is a third path which says you do not own, but still you are responsible. And that is what Krishna's Gita is. Whole of Gita is this, the third path. Right? So, two things emerge, right? So that is, there is no independence. Everything, what Krishna is saying here is, whatever happens, there is an invisible hand of God behind everything. We don't know in a big picture why things are the way they are. We will never know. But in Arjuna's situation, Krishna is just saying, just fight. Because you don't know the invisible hand that is making you fight, what all it is thinking about. You will never know that. So do not even think about results and all those stuff. Just do your thing. Right? So in all of these situations, there is this invisible hand which has its own story that's going on. So all of us should play our part without claiming anything for ourselves, because we truly do not actually claim anything for ourselves or own anything for ourselves. So that is the 19th. So this will be explained in detail in the whole of the Gita, but this Krishna is just giving kind of a summary here, and again they're going to explain in detail in all the various 18 chapters to go, right? So all those chapters, we will see all the different aspects of it. But the gist of it is this. And if you have any...
We have this type of concept, when people are going to, is it practical? How many people...
It is.
Unless I think the driver of this universe and everybody, all animals, is the element of selfishness.
No.
Ownership. They want something.
Right.
Yeah.
See, think about this. Think about baby. Baby learning to walk. If it will try once, fall down. It will try many times, fall down. It will laugh. It will smile. It will cry. But it never thinks about the result. It never. If it had thought about result, it would be in depression by now. Right? A few times it fails, all babies will be in depression. Because it will say, I am such a loser, I cannot even walk. But it never thinks about walking and all that. The process itself is enjoyment. Right? The process, it never thinks about the result. It enjoys the process. And that's what Krishna is saying. Because the result is not in your hand. What one has to do is enjoy the process. And in a beautiful way of putting this in English is, invest in the process, not in the outcome. That is the gist of Gita. Invest in the process, because process is what matters. Result is not in your hands.
I mean, the lack of ownership and all that.
For a process itself, you don't have lack of ownership. Right? You have a sense. Ownership comes for outcome. But if you invest in the process, then you're not an owner, but you are still enjoying the process. Right? When you claim ownership, then you are thinking of outcome. That the logical result of saying I am a owner, you are tied with outcomes. Right? A person who doesn't care about outcome is never an owner. Think about it. Somebody who has this sense of ownership, can he just not think about outcome? A person who is not the owner only can think about some process and not the outcome. Owner will always be thinking about shareholder value, right? Outcome. He'll not be thinking about employee, right? So the same way, when you invest in the process, then that is what Krishna is saying. Invest in the process just like a baby invests in the process of learning stuff, not in the outcome, because outcome is not in your hands. So enjoy the process. So the whole of this, the three threads is this. Right? Now, Krishna is explaining how Jiva is Nitya. How Jiva is Nitya, right? How Jiva is not extinguished. That is one thread that he's explaining. So let's go to the next one. So next one is next shloka is again, yes.
And I had a question about how practical can this invest in the process actually mean to us? Because everything we do is tied to the outcome. I mean, the example you gave about a child, the child probably doesn't know what the outcome should be.
Right.
In our case, in everything we do, we're always thinking, what is the outcome?
Right.
Right.
Result goal oriented.
Right.
But are we good with that? I mean, is that a good thing? Let's in long term. What is good in long term?
We always think, okay, if I invest in this process, what is going to be the outcome? So without knowing the outcome, I mean, I'm finding it difficult.
No. See, what is correct. What you said is right. So when you invest only in the outcome, you screw up the process. Right? So, for short-term gains, you destroy the system. You destroy everything. But if you have long-term goals, which is again, goal is there. Krishna is not saying there is a goalless life. 4 goals: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Artha and kama are short-term goals. Dharma and moksha are long-term goals. We are always concerned about long-term because these will come and go. But what truly will always exist is dharma and moksha. Right? So for that, if you invest in the outcome, who is investing in the outcome? Who is after kama and artha? Artha and kama. He who is after artha and kama alone is investing in the outcome. He who is after dharma and moksha is always investing in the process. And which is true even in industry. Right? You develop people, it will be for your long-term good. You only focus on shareholder value, you're going to screw up the company, you're going to screw up everything, right? So that is exactly what Krishna is saying. There are things which are long-term, which means that you need to invest in the process but not in the outcome. And the goal is dharma and moksha. There is a goal and that is moksha.
I think even Ramayana, I think Rama asks Vasishtha as to what is the secret for happiness. I think that's exactly the answer.
Correct.
He was like, you have short-term goals, and then once you reach that goals, go for higher goals.
Yeah, even the short-term goal has to be, has to look at the long-term goal and not be independent of it. Right? I mean, in the Mahabharata itself, there's this discussion among the Pandavas, which is the best Purushartha. And Vidura is there. Vidura says Dharma is the best Purushartha. And Arjuna says Artha is the best Purushartha. Now, because without Artha, how can anybody do Dharma? Right? Vidura may say Dharma is the best one. Arjuna says without Artha, there is no... Where is the Dharma? Where will anybody do Dharma? Bhima says Kama is the best Purushartha. Without Kama, how will you motivate somebody to do anything? Right? So, all of these can be aligned to long-term goal and will be aligned to long-term goal. Because, you cannot say, because you're aiming for moksha, money, you don't need money. You cannot do that, right? You need, it's all practical value. But if it overshoots its value, then the problem is not when it is within its limit. It's not a problem. The same
sense of limits. How much actually?
If I knew it.
Where you put that line?
When you reach your limit, you reach your satisfaction.
I mean, the certain long-term goals, it could be not this life, but the second life, whatever.
Yes, but you cannot think. The thing is, you cannot even think of that.
Yeah.
If you invest in the process, the outcome will one day happen. You might fall today, you will come up again. But if you are always in the process, you will eventually come up and reach the goal. So that is what Krishna is saying here. Eventually it was going to happen. Do not care about the results. Care about the process. Care about you doing. That's it. That is the most important, because that's what you control. Because outcome is controlled by so many other things you don't control. If you invest in outcome, you might be in for a big depression. If you invest in process, you improve yourself and you are able to handle the situation or any outcome. So why don't you invest in the process? Right? Karmanyeva adhikaraste is that. Karmani eva adhikara. Your fitness is to do actions, not the goals. Phala, you leave the phala. Just do the action. Right? So, all these details will come later. So let's not exhaust all the discussion here. So let's pick the thread back, right? Of why Jiva is eternal. So he's saying, this one is again from the Upanishad. Krishna says, Najayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyaha ajo nitya shashvatoyam purana na anyate hanyamane sharire. In the Kathopanishad, the same mantra is in a different form. Najayate mriyate va vipaschit na babhuva kaschit ajo nitya shashvatoyam puranaha na anyate hanyamane pi dehe. Here hanyamane sharire. So Krishna is just picking from different Upanishads, different ideas from all those places, and he's giving one big summary of the whole Vedanta. Now, okay, many of you are reading some translation. You have a translation? Or who is already looking at one translation? Anybody? Because I want you to read out the translation. This 20.
I have a short translation.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So, he is never born, nor does he die at any time.
Right.
Nor having once come to be, does he again cease to be.
Okay.
He is unborn, eternal, permanent, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain.
Okay. Did you understand anything about it? It is a bunch of repetitions. See, there is in Samskrita, especially in scriptures, Gita, Upanishad, there is something called as a punarukti dosha. That means, if you have an idea, if you repeat that idea, that will be useless. Punarukti means you are rhetorical. None of these are rhetorical, but still, Najayate, he says, it's unborn. Ajaha, he says, Aja means unborn. Najayate means he is not born. Right? Every one of them, his nitya is eternal. He's shashvata. It's again the same thing. He has no death. He's eternal, which also means the same thing. A bunch of same things is repeated again and again. So there is something wrong in the literal interpretation of what Krishna is saying. Right? That's why you need to go back to commentators 800 years, 900 years ago and not look at the English translation now, because it will not tell you about all these kinds of stuff. So we have seen. Let's see how we go through it. I mean, this is I am referring to commentaries from 800 years ago, right? And Tikas and Tippanis from 500 years ago. And let's see what they say about this, right? So here, Krishna has initially said, there was never a time when I did not exist. There will never be a time when I will not exist. The same is true with you, right? And then he has also said that all the bodies will die, but the Jiva Swarupa will persist. Now he is going to go into detail of that Jiva Swarupa that's going to persist. He says, Na jayate. It is never born. Swarupataha. Right? What do I mean by Swarupataha? No, Swarupataha. Swarupa, what is Swarupa? Exactly. With reference to body, he is said to be born. But in his own essence, he is unborn. Najayate. He is never born. Come down to Christianity, Islam, and all those Abrahamic religions. Is this truth in Abrahamic religions? No. soul is born at conception. And all this, debate about abortion and when there is a soul, all this comes because of this. That is, in the Bible, it says God breathes life into the baby at a certain point. So again, many times I've said, I don't use the word soul to mean jiva, because they are two different things. Right? Because there is no Sanskrit jiva equivalent in English. Because the concept itself is not there. You cannot have an equivalent word if there is no concept. Right? So, soul is equivalent to what we call prana and not to jiva. And also you cannot say prana, sit here. Because there can be soulless beings. He has lost his soul. Can we say somebody has lost his jiva? That means he is dead. You cannot say there is a person, he has lost his jiva.
I think that means soul is equal to jiva. I think.
No. Soul is not equal to jiva. We make it. In Indian English, soul and spirit means jiva. But it's not equal to jiva. Because you cannot have like for example, animals do not have a soul. Okay? Of course, animals have jiva, plants have jiva, all living beings have jiva. Right?
And then the jiva comes into that being only at the time of birth. That's the same thing as the soul, right? Only when a child is born.
No. Jiva, no.
Jiva is existing somewhere, but...
No, jiva is existing somewhere, like in Kathopanishad.
And then somebody is born,
right?
It comes into that.
No. It comes through the father, through sperms. Right? The whole thing is there in Kathopanishad, where it comes through the food to the father, and then through the sperm of the father, the jiva goes. So jiva is always there.
So the jiva was...
jiva...
Father and mother joins at the time of birth.
At the time of conception, yeah. The jiva which is in the sperm joins the egg, which is actually prakriti. Right? So it is not that the baby is born and then some soul comes. No, nothing like that. So I think in Bible it is like that. At some point of time it is considered to be alive. And that is when you cannot have abortion or something like that. So, but in the Vedanta it's not like that. Jiva has to be there for action to happen. Right? If jiva is there, prana is there. If prana is there, activity is there. Right? So this concept of soul comes from Greeks. And Greeks call it psyche. And psyche, and I think the Romans called it animus, animated activity. So they did not have a concept equal to jiva, they had concept equal to prana. That which animates was prana. And we have a concept of prana which is different from jiva. Right? Prana is...
Well, again, jiva is not in inanimate things, it's only in live things. It could be animals, plants and stuff.
Correct.
So it's not in furniture and stuff.
No.
So it's the same thing as life.
No, it is not synonymous with
life. There is jiva.
Wherever there is jiva, there is prana. Where there is prana, there is life.
But there has to be a life for jiva.
Correct.
So they're both kind of synonymous.
No, they are not synonymous. I'm saying because there are two things.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they go together.
Yeah.
But conceptually, prana you can lose prana and then become mukta. Like when you become mukta.
What happens to the jiva there when you lose your body? Now you said it comes in sperm and goes to the baby and all.
Right.
Where does the connection end when somebody dies? Where does the jiva go from there?
Oh, you are now going back to Kathopanishad. That is a few. Okay, let's keep the discussion for some other time, because then it says Navadware Pure Dehe. That means that jiva goes from one of the doors of this body and all this. We went through this in Kathopanishad, but that's another 5 classes. So let's leave it at that. But just keep in mind that jiva always has a baggage of prana, always has the baggage of what? Sukshma Sharira, and always has a package of Karana Sharira, Ajnana. So jiva always has this. That is why karma flows with him. It means, and we will see in the next, how Krishna describes, and I'll tell you about that in that verse. But for now, he says, Najayate. He says, Najayate means the soul is never born. Or the jiva is never born. When soul and jiva are not the same thing, let's say jiva is never born. He is never born. But in Abrahamic religions, the jiva is born at conception. Right? And then stays on to go to hell or heaven. But in the Vedanta, that doesn't make sense. Because if you create something, you cannot judge something. Because you made the way it is. If something is always existing, then it can be judged. If you create something, you are responsible for that being what it is. Right? You cannot then say, I give you free will. That is something we have to give. Otherwise, nothing makes sense. Right? So in Western philosophy, free will is a very important concept because I made my choice freely. It's very important because otherwise, how can you judge a person? God breathed the soul into the body. That soul is the way it is, and that soul became Hitler. Now, who is responsible for the way Hitler is? Has to be God. He was created by God.
He had a choice of doing good actions versus bad actions, right?
But why didn't he?
We all have, even though we have jiva and all that, we are still, we don't feel responsible.
Let's say you had a choice, but you picked the wrong choice. Why did you pick the wrong choice? You are made that way, and who is still now responsible for your actions? Not you. So unless something is unborn, it is not truly independent in the sense of its essence. See, there is independence of essence, not independence of action. We will come to that. So when I say there is no swatantriya, it is swatantriya of action. Essence is independent. That means when you put all the seeds, in the ground, if a mango tree grows, because it is a mango seed. Some other tree grows, it's some other seed. But the seed has the guna of the tree. That is independent. It's uncreated. That's why it says, Najayate. Jiva is uncreated. Not even Parabrahman created. Has to be. Because when Krishna says, I was always there, you were always there. When was that point when he was not there? And Krishna was there. Right? So it means that if we were both always there, that means you are uncreated. I did not create your essence. But I created all the things that you get into in this world. That is all created. But your essence itself, the mango seed, is what you are. It is uncreated. Nobody created it. What you are is your essence. Right? Najayate means that. That is completely different from Christianity and Islam, where God creates and gives you free will, which will not work in Vedanta, because that means you are not responsible. Even free will, if you made the choice, you were made the way in such a way that you made that choice. Still the problem is with the person who made you, not you. You cannot make something and judge it. That means you are judging yourself. Right? So,
in our concept, who is responsible for that?
Actually, the jiva. Yeah. Karma is always jiva's responsibility. Right? So, najayate, even though it just means it was never created, brings in so much philosophy. Right? Najayate means it was never created. It was uncreated. Na mriyate. It never dies. It never goes away. It is always there. It's nitya. It's always eternally existing. Right? What dies is body. Then, najayate mriyate va kadachit. Kadachit. For any reason. Kadachit means there is no exception to this. None of the infinite jivas that are there, none of them were ever created, none of them will ever be destroyed. They will always be existing. None of them. There is not even an exception. Kadachit means that. There is no reason, there is no exception to this thing. Right? Na ayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyaha. This is another important. Bhutva means past. Being one, something, na bhavita. Bhavita means in the future. Bhuyaha. Which means, if I am something, this will be an interesting discussion. It says, if I am something, I cannot become some other thing in the future. What I am now, I will always be in the future. I was always there in the past.
You mean the personality or?
When I say personality, it's not the personality in this life, that can change, but the Jiva Swarupa personality, right? That will change. That will never change. That means, whatever one person is, always he was, always he will be.
So, what is that? That the Jiva has a shape or a character that you're describing?
Character.
Character, but then at the same time you're saying the body is different, and then your actions are not related with all the actions, and your personality means you're good and bad about you. Is that what is Jiva?
Yes. So, see, all the sensations come from Jiva, right? Jiva senses. All the actions, intentions come from the Jiva. The body mediates and the whole world mediates and things happen. Right? All of these happen. Now, what Krishna is saying, once been, that is one, if there is a mango seed, it will always be a mango seed in the future also. So then where is this transformation? Can transformation happen in Vedanta? That is the question.
No. It's always yes and no.
Okay. How? You're catching on. See, na ayam bhutva bhuyah na bhavita. That means once he is, again he will not be something else. That means if a thief, always a thief. Is that true? If a fool, always a fool. If a jnani, always a jnani. If a murderer, always a murderer. You cannot just say no. You have to give me the reason.
I think he's talking about the essence. The essence remains the same.
Okay.
Like if it's an aggressive personality, he would always be aggressive, but may not follow the same kind of path of life, right?
Okay.
Valmiki, he kind of changed from a robber to
Exactly. So many. That is a one famous example. And you look at Mahabharata, look at Ramayana, a lot of people change. Right?
So what I'm saying, there might be a streak of aggressiveness or criminality in a person. And
Right.
There might be a murderer in one birth, and then next time there might be a war hero.
Politician or something.
War hero. Then aggressiveness might be a war hero.
That is more possible. Okay, yeah.
Isn't
Right?
it your karma that you're building up?
Exactly.
Yeah, so every time but the Jiva sense is still...
Okay, let us now look at these two things. One, we are talking about one is personality. Right? Personalities do change. You have to, because that is empirically proved. What is empirically proved, Krishna cannot say it is not true. Right? What we don't know, that aspect Krishna will teach. What is obvious, Krishna will never teach. That is all, Vedanta is like that. What you know or what you can know, it will never tell you about that. That's why there is no atomic bomb. People will say, oh, Vedas had all this Paramanu, Astra knowledge. There's nothing like that in Vedas. It is always about something that we don't know and we can never know without it. That's why it's called Shabda Pramana. Because you can never have pratyaksha. You can never directly do it or logically think it or infer it. That's why it is Shabda Pramana. Right? Again, that's another big topic. So let's get back to this. So, personality can change. We all know personality can change. Now, what is Krishna saying here? What doesn't change?
The impersonal. The impersonal.
Now you're telling, what is that? Again, come down to the next level of, tell me, what is impersonal? What is impersonal?
That personality couldn't. Maybe the attitude. That personality couldn't change what most everywhere.
Personality can change. An aggressive person can then lose that aggression and become something else.
Is it breaking down the G with the Sukshma but certain parts can change and other parts cannot change?
No. Here he's talking about the Jiva essence itself.
He might behave differently in certain situations, but the basic essence of aggression will always remain there.
I'm not.
You
You mean to say the nucleus of the soul will never change?
What does that mean?
The nucleus, in the sense like the quality, that's inborn quality, whatever say of the soul,
Right.
never change, will be carried on even the soul is being recycled. Is it true?
That is kind of true, but I want that to be related to the personality traits, which we all know and agree is changeable. Right? So there are two things. Do not mistake one for the other. There is one thing called personality traits. Krishna is not talking about personality traits. Otherwise it becomes a fool is always a fool. A criminal is always a criminal. But Krishna in the next chapter says, the worst criminal can still change with the light of knowledge, he says. So Krishna is not talking about personality traits. Because personality traits do change. And also it doesn't mean the worst criminal cannot become a saint. Can become a saint. It also doesn't mean a saint cannot become a worse criminal. Can become a worse criminal. Right? So, personality traits do not tell you about Jiva Swabhava.
Well, I mean, criminality is not necessarily a personality. He might have committed a crime once in life and then he said, oh, I made a mistake, but he might not necessarily be that all his life. You're not born to be there might be a situation that might have forced you to do something.
Exactly. Okay. But let's talk about a person who is a real criminal. You're talking about some exceptions. I'm talking about a person who is a criminal, who has a criminal bent of mind. But let's say Valmiki is one example, and he completely transformed himself. So personality traits transformed. His criminal mind is changed because of some jnana. That now he sees the world in a different light. He used to see it in a different light. Jnana can change personality traits.
So what does it mean when in English they say you cannot straighten a dog's tail? I mean, you cannot change certain characteristics of
again, that I would say is a vyavahara jnana. It is, it doesn't mean it's an absolute truth. People change, right? Yeah. No, it may mean that change is not very easy to happen. Doesn't happen quickly. Change takes time. You cannot have a person be a criminal one day and next day be a saint, which can also happen, but not usually, right? So, it's agreed that personality traits can change and will change based on knowledge. Otherwise, the personality that we have, we will never have mukti. Or I should say for myself, personality that I have, I'll always be going around. But there is some hope because my personality can also change after reading this 100 million times. Maybe one day I will see the light. Right? The same with everybody.
So the question is that which is not changing, is it common to everybody? Or is it unique to each person that's not changing? If it's a common thing to everybody, that's not
there is
changing.
nothing common to everybody in the sense that when you say common, when you say common, it means it has to come from single source. But that's not, my jiva has not come from anything. I've always existed. Na jayate. How can I have anything common with you? Right?
Same source.
You are going back to, again here, Neo Vedanta. American Vedanta.
Characteristics like getting afraid to the snakes.
Yeah.
Subconscious characteristic.
No, that is a Deya Swabhava. That is Prakriti. That is, even if you try, Prakriti will force you to run away. Right? So
if you for the example that you mentioned, right? Like if you read many books and you change your personality for this time period or
right.
for this janma, what do I say? So with this personality change is going to affect the nucleus of the soul that you mentioned, or is it going to be carried over for the when the soul is being recycled in a sense, like come back?
Correct, because whatever you do, karma, will be carried over. Right? You change yourself and do good things, of course it has to be carried over. Right? It will be carried over. So, okay, now that's the thing. So, Jiva Swabhava is like I said, mango seed will always give rise to mango tree, no matter what. Right? So, personality is that which is linked to the Jiva Swabhava in a very complicated way. It's like, because, between our personality traits and the Jiva Swabhava comes in all the karmas that we have done. Right? You have examples in Mahabharata, in Ramayana, in the Puranas, where somebody is cursed, Jaya Vijaya. They become Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Shishupala, Dantavakra, all of this, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, they come as that. And then finally, it says, when he was killed, he became Mukta, which is not true. He doesn't become Mukta, but he again goes back to his former self. Person, again there is other caveats to that, but the person who has committed a lot of evil deeds can also become a saint, or has also become a saint. So what is his true personality? So that is what what we have is a karmic personality. What Jiva Swabhava is a true personality. What is true personality will eventually persist when all the karmas go away. Which means, do not judge a person by the things he has done now, because he might have a Daivika personality.
So if we take an example of someone who's now overcome all his karmic personalities and is now finally his true personality, and another person who does the same thing, yet they're different, is it?
Yeah.
So you attained your Swabhava, another person attains his Swabhava.
Yes.
And they're different.
Yes.
So what would be an example of someone who's actually, when they attain their true state,
true state is nothing abstract. It's like how I and you are different. Your Swabhava and my Swabhava are different. Like my Swabhava is different from every other Swabhava, right? So when I attain my true personality, my Swabhava will be different from yours. Just like how it's different now. I mean, there is nothing, I don't understand why it should be common.
We were trying to find similarities too, besides differences. Yeah. Nothing wrong in finding.
Now you are going to American way. Because I always keep saying, difference is not the problem.
Right.
How you see difference is the problem. Right? Now you go back to that, everybody should be one for everybody to be, happy and peaceful. That's not true.
Just to change the absolute.
What you said is, he said, this person has got a certain Sabhava, and
Okay.
initially he's got a Devi Sabhava.
Right.
And if we're saying we like sparks of fire, right, and a Jeev comes out, eventually will all the Jeevs not go back to the initial fire?
No.
There's certain Jeevs that will be,
Always there.
will always be there.
So there will be three kinds of jivas. Those jivas, in the Krishna himself says, Daivi Sampat and Asuri Sampat.
Right.
And he says to Arjuna, you have Daivi Sampat, do not worry. So the only person who will actually know Jiva Swabhava is only one. Krishna. Nobody else will know. I cannot know what your Jiva Swabhava. I only know your personality. Right? I do not know what your Jiva Swabhava is. The same way you will not know my Jiva Swabhava. What you know is what I show to the world. Right? That keeps on changing. So, one person judging another person is very superficial. That's what Krishna is saying. Because anybody cannot ever know one's true essence or one's true personality. But the thing is, if you have that thing, good Daivi Swabhava, eventually, even if you fall down many times, you will come up.
So those three things you were trying to say was...
Those who come up, those who will always be here,
Always.
those who go down. Asura. Daiva, Manusha, Asura.
That's it. There's no hope for the Asura.
No, it is like this. For some, they will make a mistake, they will learn, and then they'll move on. Some, you teach them again and again, they'll keep making the mistake, go down. So it is just saying, not everybody will do the same thing. There are some who will learn and go on, Daivi Sampat. There will be some who will, like dog's tail, never learn.
And we will never know who we are till the end. We will not know whether we are Asura, Deva, or anything.
You don't even need to worry about it.
We don't need to worry about it.
If you are in the Daivika Marga, it means you might be in Daiva.
Just look at the process.
Yeah, exactly. Do not think about, oh, do I have Asuri Swabhava, Daivi Swabhava? If I'm Asuri Swabhava, why should I do good? The good thing is we don't know. Right?
And we'll never know.
We will never know.
Excellent.
Right? So,
Just if you could tell, why would you bother doing good things?
right? So that means, assume you have Daivi Swabhava and start learning and learning from mistakes.
It doesn't correlate with astrology, the nakshatra with the deva.
Now, all astrology is not about Jiva Swabhava, it is about karma. Right? Astrology, otherwise,
But all the circumstances and everything has put us together to be here at this point in time.
Right.
There's some part of the day which...
oh yeah, of course, yeah. So I mean, if you are learning Gita today, assume that you have some Daivi Swabhava. Right?
That was attracted to the spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
So people who are in the Asuri Swabhava, will they ever go up to Daivi Swabhava? Because of the karmas?
Again,
Just the Swabhava.
we see, Swabhava is Swabhava. I mean, Kali, for example. See, Kali will live like Brahma for 100 years of Brahma. Like 100 years. We know that 100 years is like 3 trillion years of human life is 100 years of a cycle. And then he goes down. Right? He is born again and again, like Duryodhana and now as Kali and all those different things. He is born. Right? So, he will do evil sadhana for 100 years of Brahma's life. Brahma will do good sadhana for 100 years of his life and then become mukta. Kali will become mukta in the reverse way. Go down, never to come up. Andantamah pravishanti ye avidyam upasate. Kali will go down to never come up. So these are these are Puranic examples, right? But in our experience we never know. I mean, will that Asura come up? How do we know? Maybe he has Daivi, he might come up.
Of the three, one appears to go up, one goes down. The third one appears to be recycling around.
It's called Nitya Samsari. Ants, birds, things like, those things which will just, has no option of learning knowledge. Some of them, like human, because of karma, is born in those lives, but will come up, let's say. Otherwise, what will dog know? How will dog do sadhana? How will cats, rats do sadhana? There is no sadhana. Without sadhana, without knowledge, there is no mukti. So how will they become muktas?
But according to our theories, we can regress. I mean, there's right. You can become a cow or whatever.
Exactly.
But then
you can become a bacteria also.
And then you're stuck.
No.
You're always in that recycling mode.
No. See, it depends on your karma. Let's say you have Daivi Sampat. Okay, and you have done some papa karmas because of something. And then you have become a bacteria. Then again, once the karma is exhausted.
You may go up again.
Yeah. Because for animals, there is no karma. Because there is no intention. You will accrue good or bad karmas only if you have an intention. A dog or a rat will do what Prakriti makes it do. Right? How can you judge, Papa karma, Punya karma?
Once having become a bacteria or whatever, where is the chance for me to come back again?
When you die, as a bacteria. If you have good karmas that pull you up.
I have to be pulled up. There's nothing much I can do.
If you have done much before, then you can be pulled. Yeah. Think about it. From now to eternity, in the past, you have done karmas. So, if there was some good karma, so you're learning Gita, right? So, let's assume that you have done some good stuff and donated, being selfless.
Just adding to your savings account, basically doing good stuff.
Yes. So, karma is the the samskara which will never destroy you. It will always protect you. That's the one that protects you.
So
good karma.
So in Sattva, Raju, Tamas, on the 18th chapter, it says, right, I mean, you can be a Sattva person when you think of good, and when you sleep, you will be a Tamas, and when you do aggressive stuff,
No, it is the other way. When Tamo Guna increases, then laziness, sloth, the sleep, all those increases. When Sattva increases, then you have the energy to do things, but in the right way. When rajas increases, that means you have that high.
Courage.
I will, dominate this world. That is when the rajas increases.
So the person, even if he has the sattva characteristic by nature, so he has to go through all the three.
No, yes, correct. So the thing is, a person who has sattva will have sattva guna come up majority of the times. Tamo and rajo gunas come minority of the times. Right?
That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Correct.
So
personality is basically going down to your sattva, rajas, tamas, right? Which is all prakriti, and it's always changing. So when the sattva comes, then you do good actions. You are very level-headed. You know what to do and all this. When rajas comes, you want to go and kill somebody. You want to make lots of money and show off and all the rajas. When tamas comes, I don't care. I will sleep in the house. That kind of stuff. But the person, everybody will have some of that. Right? When sattva is majority of the times, then that person is a good personality. So najayate, is all this discussion. I mean, na ayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyaha is this. Jiva swabhava is something that will eventually, we will all go when we exhaust karma. If we do not exhaust karma, we will always have changing personalities.
The Eastern school here says no free will.
There is no free will.
Okay.
Which is also science. Also says there is no free will. Free will is an illusion. Free will, that is another big discussion, but free will is an illusion. But still you can do stuff your own way.
In the illusion, I can do something.
Yes.
Don't think that way.
Yeah.
Don't tell the judge I had no free will.
That's right. Yeah. It won't work.
Because you always had the illusion of free will, and that's what they are punishing you for. That's the thing. Yeah. So, bhutva bhavita va na bhuyaha means this. That there are two kinds of personalities. The personality that we have might and will change, but the jiva swabhava will eventually, we will all be that. So that means the jiva itself is unchanging. He is unborn, he does not die, and he is unchanging also. You can be three things, right? Prakriti is what? Is it born or unborn? Prakriti. Unborn, right? Yeah, born. It's unborn.
Nature is always there.
Yeah. Prakriti is it? Does it die? Does it get destroyed?
yes.
No. No, it's Prakriti. Changes, right? So you can have unborn, you can have undying, but you can have it changing or unchanging. So what Krishna is saying is, Jiva is unborn, never dies, and unchanging. Just like Krishna is. Right? He is unborn, undying, and never changes. Jiva is also unborn, undying, and never changes. And Prakriti is unborn, undying, always changing in a cycle. Right? Prakriti is always changing in a cycle. So these are the two things. So he's saying that. So, and then he says, Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purana na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Now this is what he was reading from that book, right? He says he is unborn. Why? Because he is unborn. Najayate means he is never born. Why? Because he is unborn. He is never killed. Why? Because he is unkilled. He never changes. Why? Because he is unchanging. That is what English that's what they write, right? Ajo nitya shashvata means what? Shashvata means, what is the difference between nitya and shashvata?
Nitya is always.
Nitya is always. Shashvata is?
Shashvata is permanent.
Permanent is always. Nitya is permanent.
As a time is infinity, so nitya stays with infinity.
Yeah, what is shashvata?
Shashvata means infinity. Along the infinity time.
That is the same thing, right? See, nitya means that which always is. Shashvata means that which is always is in one form. Ekarupata is Shashvata.
It's kind of Purna.
Ekarupata, one form. The unchanging is what in English what you call unchanging is in Sanskrit Shashvata. Even though we use Shashvata to mean eternal, it is not. Nitya is eternal. Shashvata means unchanging. Right? So, Ajo Nitya Shashvatoyam Puranaha Na Anyate Anyamane Sharire, he says. He's repeating the same thing. And just like you said, he's impersonal. Right? He has a personality. Why? Because he doesn't have a personality. Why? Because he's impersonal. Right? He's never born. Why? Because he's unborn. A definition should explain something in a simpler term. Is it adding something? It is never born. Why? Because it's unborn. What new thing did you come to know about it? What is this called? Punarukti dosha. You just now said najayate, now you are saying aja. Just now said namriyate, now you are saying nitya. Just now you said bhutva bhavita va nabhuyaha, now you are saying shashvata. All of them mean the same thing. What he is saying is, why is he all that? Aja, nitya, shashvata, ishvara swarupatvat, ajo nitya shashvatoyam puranaha. I said, the reflection is like the source. The reflection is unborn. Why? Because source is aja. Reflection is eternal. Why? Because the source is eternal. Reflection is unchanging. Why? Because source is unchanging. That is what he's saying. He is never born, nor does he ever die, nor does he ever change. Why? Because he is a reflection of unborn, unchanging Parabrahman, always. That's the reason why he is that. Otherwise it becomes a repetition. And Vyasa has written it in such a way that if you interpret the other way, you get repetition. If he is Najayate and Aja, that means he is Aja because he is Aja. Paramatma is Aja, Jiva is Aja. Jiva is Najayate because Paramatma is Aja. So Ajo Nitya Shashvatoyam Purana. What is Purana? What is Purana? Yeah. Purana means, it means many things. Pura Anati. That means something of the old is Purana. Or in Hindi Purana is a Purana. Purana means that, old. Puram Deham Anati iti Puranaha. That means Jiva is also called Purana. Because body is called Pura. Right? Remember in the Kathopanishad, Puramekadasha dvaram ajasya avakrachedasaha anushtayana shochati vimuktascha vimuchyate etadvaitat. This is what Kathopanishad said. Hey, there is this city of 11 doors. And what is that city of 11 doors? Human body. All the 11 doors that we have. That is Puram. So Puram means Deham. Anatiti means Apnoti, that he gets. Body getter. Or the city getter. Purana means city getter. Puram Deham Anatiti is Puranaha. That means Ajo Nitya Shashvataha Ayam Puranaha. That means this Jiva. Ayam Purana means Ayam Jivaha. Ajaha Nitya Shashvata Ishvara Swarupatvat Na Hanyate Hanyamane Sharire. Because he is of the nature of unchanging, eternal, unborn Paramatman, even though the body is destroyed, he is never. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Hanyamana sharira means when the body which is destructible is destroyed, he is never destroyed because he is unborn. And why he is unborn? Because he is unborn.
But this is a very hopeful message. On the other hand, is there a method by which you can actually operate in the world without the illusion of being a karmic personality? Can you actually attain the
That is Gita.
So you can actually overcome the illusion of living in the world.
Invest in the process. That is the Gita, which is you're asking me about all the 18 chapters.
Oh, okay.
But the message of the Gita is that. Because now Arjuna wants a way for him to fight the war and not get the papa. Right? So his basic question to Krishna is, you want me to fight the war, how can I fight this war then? Because it is a Mahapataka. It is going to make me fall down. Naraka. But how can I fight the war and still not go to the Naraka? Is there a way? He wants to know from Krishna. So Krishna is saying all this. So that is how to go about this world so that the fruits do not attach to you. That is what Gita is. Right? That is what Gita message is. So now he is talked about the Jiva Swabhava, what Jiva Swabhava is unchanging and why it is unchanging and all that. So in the next one, Veda Vinashinam Nityam Ya Enam Ajamavyayam Katham Sapurusha Partha Kam Gatayati Hanti Kam. The previous shloka was Ya Enam Vetti Hantaram. One who thinks this guy is a killer, one who thinks this guy killed, doesn't know, he said. Now he says here, Veda Avinashinam Nityam Ya Enam Ajam Avyayam Katham Sapurusha Partha Kam Ghatayati Hanti Kam. So, one who knows all this, how will he ever kill somebody or get killed? So, that was an ignorant fellow. This is how a jnani will behave. That is, when he knows that Jiva is Avinashi, Aja, and all these things, his whole attitude to how he goes about in this world completely changes. With that attitude, he will never have a selfish motive. Without a selfish motive, how does he ever kill anybody? Because even though he kills, the papa never comes to him. Because there is no selfish motive. Katham sapurusha partha kim ghatayati or kam ghatayati hanti kam. Who does he kill or who does he get killed? Because he knows all this and his attitude to life and going about in life is completely changed. When he is acting in such a way, who does he really kill? Because even in action, the fruits do not accrue to him because the intent, the motive, the selfishness is never there. Because you are always punished for your motive and selfishness and not for your action.
So the karmic bonding is because of your intention.
Exactly.
So
because of your desire, intent.
So, but how can you act with no intention?
That we will see.
Okay.
Intent in the sense, intent of the outcome. I want to kill him. If you don't have the I want to kill him, and you are just going about doing your actions, then there is no papa, right? Unless you have a selfish motive, your action is not...
Well, qualified as selfish, but you do have to have a motive because unless you aim, you cannot be in a fight.
Yeah, right? Here in the Arjuna will have the higher motive, right, of doing the dharma, but he doesn't want to kill you. He doesn't have a desire to, I want to kill you. He only has the motive of, I want to uphold dharma. You happen to be here, and I have to fight with you. I have
goal. So he still wants to kill Bhishma and everybody.
Correct.
Because he wants to fight, he has to plan, and he wants to kill him. But the overall aim is to the ultimate goal of them.
Correct.
So the short-term goal is to still kill.
Still kill, yes. Yeah. But now, Arjuna is not going with a motive of, I want to go and kill Bhishma because I hate him. Yes, I have to kill you even though I worship you because you are on the wrong side. And I have to uphold. There are Pancha Mahapatakas, 5 patakas, 5 great, you can say sins. Even though there is no sin concept in Hindu Vedanta, there is a papa concept, there is no sin concept. That's another class. Right? So, the Pancha Mahapatakas, like murder and all of these things will become Panchama. 4 of them. The fifth Mahapataka is being associated with the people who do those 4 things. Is another Pataka. You are guilt by association. You are guilty by association. You are as punishable as the one who has actually done the karma. Bhishma is a very high soul, right? He's a Vasu himself. But still, he is guilt by association. He could have done so many things. He kept quiet.
It's a matter of proximity. Let's say that I'm in the woodlands and everybody is good here. And that's okay. By association, I'm okay.
Right.
But if you broaden it, I'm part of a horrible policy.
No. You're part of your close associations.
Close
Who do you associate with?
Proximity. There
Yeah.
must be a.
Tell me who your friends are, I'll tell you who you are. Exactly like that. Your friends are like that Mahapatakas. Associating with them will be a fifth Pataka. Bhishma and Drona and Kripa and all of those people are guilty because of their association with Duryodhana. Okay, let's end here and continue after 2 weeks. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum Om